Hi, my name is Mark Cavens, and welcome to ChefConf. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about our Chef SaaS Early Access product. Walking through this session, we're going to take a look at a few things. As we look at the agenda here, we're going to look at the insights associated with SaaS and why we've started to build Chef in the cloud. We're going to look at what is Chef SaaS Early Access. We'll review the timelines for where we've been and where we're going. We'll do a quick demo, and then we'll talk about next steps at the end. As we take a look through this session, feel free to look at any questions that you might have, and feel free to share those with us so we can get back to you at any point in time with what we have. Starting with our insights, there's a nice piece of information put up here. Now, what we're talking about when we're talking about programmable infrastructure can be looked at both for on-premise as well as in the cloud. When we focus on how cloud and cloud infrastructure has looked over the last few years, we start to see where those trends of putting a cloud infrastructure tool with our cloud resources and cloud infrastructure makes a lot more sense as we start to move things in the future. There are inherent differences between infrastructure in the cloud and infrastructure on-premise, and more importantly, being able to have tools that help associate with helping with those issues are fundamental in making infrastructure decisions. When we take a look at DevOps and using SaaS, we're still doing the same functionality that we would be looking at if we were doing everything on-premise. We're still provisioning nodes, we're provisioning machines, we're doing application deployment. We're focusing on the compliance of our infrastructure after the provisioning. And of course, we're putting everything into a constant monitoring. And more we see where CISOs and other IT infrastructure professionals are really looking towards how can I do this in an automated way? How can I do this in an agile type of thought process and project oriented way? We know that more than 70% of IT professionals are looking for ways to automate things. We know when we take a look at compliance that the cost to organizations in order to keep their infrastructure in compliance is quite extensive. $6 million on average, and as well in certain regulated industries that might be double or even triple the budget that you're seeing today. If you can help to automate some of that compliance, it makes audits much easier. It makes everything a lot more smooth and less manual process as you're running through with things. And then, of course, we all know that if something is found in non-compliance, that it's a greater cost to us and a greater potential for compliance audits to take longer, to make sure that things are put into a way that you can repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat and continue down that path. Makes it much easier for all organizations. And this works for both your on-premise thought processes as well as what you're doing in the cloud. So when does it make sense to switch from on-premise to a SaaS? What are the factors that make sense? Well, we put verses in the middle of this particular graphic. Sometimes it's not a versus conversation, but more a thought conversation around where do you want to save and what do you want to keep complete control of. For instance, maintenance costs are generally high for on-premises, a little bit less when we're talking about the SaaS because you have another company that's taking that over. Hardware costs, of course, are always going to be a factor, and backup costs as well. How much backup do you need to keep? Those are going to be factors that you need to think about when moving from on-premise into a SaaS environment. For instance, with Chef SaaS today, we typically keep a rolling 30 days of information as backup that we're hosting for our customers today. If you need more than that, then that's additional thought processes that help you make that transition from on-premise into the cloud. So what is Chef SaaS Early Access? It's a limited release of Automate in the cloud. Now, when we say limited, we don't mean limited in functionality. We mean limited to the number of customers that are currently taking advantage of the program. What you see out of the program today is you see a full version of Automate in the cloud. This gives you the ability to deploy your chef cookbooks, whatever workloads you need to be doing, do that in a cloud focused environment, and then not have to focus on needing to do the initial installs, the upgrades and updates. That's all taken care of for you by Chef. What does this mean for you in the future? It means that any of the releases that we are doing now on our Automate product, you will be able to take advantage of in the cloud. It also means that you have advantages of being able to take a look at new projects and products that are coming in the future as well for you without having to worry about those updates and upgrades. What hosting decisions make sense for the cloud today? The way that we have things set up with our early access, it seems to make the most sense for customers that have anywhere between 500 to about 10,000 nodes that you're willing to deploy. When you're taking a look at how we're pricing things, we're still pricing things by the node, so much like you would see for our typical on-premises or even our older hosted chef model. We're sticking with that model as of right now and taking a look at how our future products will look for talking about pricing around there. But as far as hosting goes, we have the redundancy, we have the backups that you would need in order to make sure that your environment is constantly up and running. How does this differentiate from our hosted chef product? Our hosted chef product was primarily focused on infrastructure automation. Some of the enhancements that we've made, our focus is including the infrastructure automation, but also looking around compliance, looking at some of those endpoints, specifically desktop endpoints, and making sure that we are solving cloud problems with cloud-based software. So things like our client security posture management. These are particular stories that we are working with that are helping cloud-based problems with cloud-based solutions. If you have more questions on that, feel free to take a look at some of our sessions as we talk about our CSPM product. But the focus here is that there's additional functionality that Hosted Chef doesn't have today that we already have out of the box, making sure that we can take care of our customers today and in the future. So we talked a little bit about it around what do you do for the on-premise or do you go to SaaS? There's a few more questions that most companies are going to need to ask. And the matrix typically goes with just because you're having one no when you're answering some of these questions, doesn't mean that you can't still get down that SaaS pathway. It really starts to take a look at how much customization do you need of your chef environment today? What is your data recommendations? How is your security team feeling about having some tools that are managing your infrastructure that are located in the cloud? A lot of these yes and no pathways that you're going to take are going to start to make those decisions around whether or not SaaS makes sense for you, or if there is another route that you can go down. In each of these cases, as you start to take a look at that, there's also scenarios to think about how you're working today. Whether you're a new customer with Chef and you need to take a look at, if I'm going to get started, what makes sense for me? Do I need to answer some of those previous questions and also think about what I'm doing in the future? Or do I need to take a look at the fact of my current infrastructure? For instance, we know that most organizations now have a cloud-based strategy. And in most cases, about 92% of those people that are based in the cloud have multi-cloud strategies that they're having to think of. So maybe at that point in time, this is where our SaaS product will make sense for you. We also know that more and more of even our high Fortune 500 companies have now moved to the cloud or are making those moves in the next couple of years. Do you have the right functionality put out, and are you basing the things and the tools that you're monitoring those cloud-based solutions? Are you doing that in a way that it makes sense for what you need now and in the future? For our on-premises and hosted chef customers, a lot of what we've heard our customers talk about is migration. How do I take what I have on premise and move it up in the cloud? Well, if it's your nodes and you need to move your actual data from your nodes up into the cloud, at that point in time, that's a simple script that you can allow to move your stuff into the cloud. Now, if you need to retain the data that's currently on your on-premises, this is where you might have a little bit of a different strategy. And this is also something that we take a look at when we're qualifying leads for whether or not it makes sense for our customers to stay on premise or move into the cloud. So feel free to reach out to your account representatives and have these discussions with them around what makes the most sense for you. One thing to think about as well as, how do we deliver some of the additional ROI that a lot of our customers are looking for? In addition to that hardware and software savings that you might have, in addition to the upgrades that we have for getting customers started, installations, upgrades, and updates, in addition to there, we have to think about new employees that are coming on. How do we help onboard? How do we help keep them doing what they do best? The person that you may be hiring now is primarily maybe a developer, and they don't do necessarily the management of servers and the management of the individual endpoints. And so in this particular case, SaaS may make more sense. The savings that you have is somebody who's not necessarily focused on the tool that focuses on the rest of your infrastructure, and they just want to be able to write the scripts and be able to go into there. It may also help you save time as you're offboarding and onboarding new customers as well. So some things to think about, some possibility of savings that you have there for both now and in the future. Let's talk a little bit about timelines and roadmaps. So we started with our beta on SaaS in August of 2021. We ran that all the way up until March of 2022, got a lot of feedback from some of our beta customers around what makes sense, and really helped us define what our early access and going forward with Chef SaaS, how it will look in the future. In March of 2022 was when we ended our beta program, and we started the early adopter program and started qualifying some of the candidates that were both from our betas as well as additional customers that were coming through. And we've started our onboardings here in Q3 of all of the new early adopter customers. Of course, where we're at today, we're talking at ChefConf, letting more and more people know that our early access program is well and on the road to being full production. And our early access program will conclude at the end of Q4 of 2022. And from there, we'll be taking the next steps as we work with our SaaS product. All right. So we'll do a little bit of a demo here. What we'll take a look at is a couple of workflows that you would be seeing. The first thing will be the actual onboarding. What does it take to get a SaaS account? And what is the information that we need? Also, we'll take a little bit of a look. We'll take a quick look at some of the compliance and how that works within Chef Automate. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit around monitoring and what to expect around there. So with our Chef SaaS product, we need about 8 pieces of information from our customers. Who's going to be the primary person that we're talking with? They're going to get that set up as the first admin as we set up the accounts. We'll need to know how many nodes that we'll be managing both now and the possibility in the future. The last things we'll be looking at is what region that you want your account to be in. Primarily by default, we deploy into AWS West. And with that, that allows us to have that control of knowing where they're going to. Now, we will in the future have the ability to deploy to other regions, but as of right now, we primarily focus on AWS West. Once that is set up, we can actually go through, create your environment. Takes us anywhere between 12 to about 36 hours, depending on current workloads that we have from the team. After that, once we have everything set up, we'll send you your credential files, get you your get started kit. And at that point in time, you're able to log in and start on your workflows. Moving on to the next phase, we'll take a quick look at what compliance actually looks like within both our Chef Automate, as well as how it would look inside of the SaaS. In this particular case, we have a few nodes that have been hooked up, and a compliance scan has already been running. The user of the account is able to take a look at any particular compliance issues that might be going on in the environment itself. And looking through that, they're able to make a decision around whether or not there needs to be a fix to the particular problem that we're calling out, or waivers might be put in, or any other remediation that might take a look at and that you might need to do on a particular account. Lastly, we'll talk a little bit about monitoring. Of course, with Chef, we're monitoring the accounts consistently through the environments. We're also taking a look at what does it mean that if there's any issues on a customer's tenant. All of that's being done in the back end for you. But we also give you tools into the monitoring itself. So each customer will have their own page that will take a look at how their environment is working, what's running, if there's been any problems, anything like that. You have full access to have the view of that. And then from there, if there's any questions you have, we can take a look at it for you later on. All right, we've come to the end here. Next steps. So for anybody who's interested in taking a look, evaluating, and seeing what you might be able to do with SaaS, the first thing that our suggestion is a sign up. Talk with your account rep. If you're a new customer, then of course, this is something that we have sign up pages on our chef.io website that allows you to take a look at SaaS, make an inquiry around if SaaS is the right thing for you. And from there, we can talk to you a little bit more about what you might be able to see. We'll set up a kickoff meeting to discuss any use cases that you have, take a look at some of those 8 pieces of information that we need to get started. We'll have you talk with account reps, talk about contracting, pricing, all of that kind of good stuff will be done during those kickoff meetings. And then if the next step is taken, we'll provide access to the environments for you. And at that point in time, allow you to start doing what it is that you need to do, whether that's compliance, whether that is automation, whether it's taking a look at some of your cloud environments and looking at the security posture of them. Whatever your workload is, that's the point in time that you really get to kick the tires and look around. Now, during this point in time, because it is early access, we are asking for some feedback sessions here or there to know how we can do better, what's working good for you. All of that kind of information is stuff that we have during our early access. These meetings were primarily set up, and this cadence was set up during our beta period. We found it very helpful in order to start moving things forward to the next phases of what we're looking at. And we want to be able to continue with that moving on now and in the future. So to wrap things up, we're kind of at the point in time where, again, if you have questions, feel free to send those questions and we'll be able to get you responses. If it's something that you're interested in, please remember to work with your account representatives. And from there, I hope everyone has a great ChefConf. I hope you found this session informative, and I hope everyone has a great day.